28th edition of the Climate Change Conference is taking place in Expo City in Dubai. More than 70,000 delegates are gathering to discuss ways and means to mitigate the adverse impact of climate change. While addressing the opening session of the COP28 summit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi proposed to host COP33 in India in 2028. And during his address, Prime Minister Modi emphasized that India has adhered to the UN framework on climate change and shines in this regard as India contributes less than 4% to global carbon emissions. While many announcements at the summit centered around sourcing power into the future, nearly a dozen deep-pocketed philanthropic institutions set their sights on one of the key climate pollutants, methane emissions. The philanthropic, said that they would invest $450 million over the next 3 years to help countries launch national plans for tackling methane. The Prime Minister has stated that India has presented a model of development to the world, striking great balance between ecology and economy. Let's in fact listen in to what the Prime Minister said.
Friend, Bharat UN framework for climate change process के प्रति प्रतिबद्ध है. इसलिए आज मैं इस मंच से 2028 में COP 2028 में COP33 समिट को भारत में होस्ट करने का प्रस्ताव भी रखता हूं.
All right, Sankalp Suman, youth delegate, is joining us live from the COP28 in Dubai. Dr. Sharat Kohli, senior economist, also with us on the show. Mr. Sanjeev Srivastava, international affairs expert, joins us on the program as well. Sankalp, I'll come to you. I hope you can hear me.
Yes,
well,
I can.
The Prime Minister, in fact, has said something which basically underlines or exemplifies the essence of this crisis that the developed and the developing world has been grappling with. He said that there has to be a mix between economy and ecology. To me, that basically is the compendium with which every responsible nation should be working. He also thought that, the UN has put out those guidelines and India has been adhering to it. So this is perhaps the trajectory that a lot of these countries who are perhaps new to this concept will also be following.
Right. So this is actually a very momentous COP because on the very first day, we saw the adoption of the loss and damage fund, and the presidency UAE committed $1 billion. We had the United Kingdom, Canada, US, a lot of other countries joining in to commit money to the cause of loss and damage. And given that the status of global geopolitics is so polarized today between the war in Russia, the war in Israel, it's actually very promising as a young person to see the world governments come together, and this is really the time for India to take up the lead of the global south to champion the cause of climate, because we are one of the worst sufferers of climate change. We have a 7,500 kilometer long coastline. We are an agri-based economy, and the adoption of loss and damage fund is a momentous occasion for us to actually mitigate the losses that we have been facing that are not yet identified or quantified per se, but this is a good direction to take it, and it was very pleasing to see the Prime Minister offering to host COP33 in India. We really look forward to having that. Of course, it's not decided yet. Even the launch of the Green Credits Initiative, although it is voluntary, it was very nice to see so many other countries, including the Sheikh Zayed, joining in the initiative. So really looking forward to the developments as they go on for the next 2 weeks.
Dr. Kohli, how do you see this transformation that India has been trying to push when it comes to this crisis? It is a fact that India did wake up a little late when it came to analyzing and realizing that this mixture of ecology and economy has to work. But like they say, better late than never.
Well, it's the cost of rapid development, Vineet, if we put it in a different way. I mean, with China contributing almost 12.9 billion metric tons to the pollutants in the world, America being number 2 at 5.9 billion metric tons, I think India is, as you spelled out the percentage, only 4%. We are 17% of the world population, and we are only contributing 4%. So, when it comes to 4%, and with fingers being raised on India that, probably India should do this, India should do that, India is not doing enough to check pollutants. I think they need to, especially the developed world, and especially these 2-3 majors who are doing, I think, as they say, people who live in glass houses have got no right to throw stones at others. I mean, they should be looking at themselves. But having said that, Vineet, I have a slight grudge from this whole COP concept. The grudge is that there's a lot spoken, there's a lot discussed. There's so much of flying happens, and this is happening in Dubai. Imagine the number of aircrafts which have come to bring down the delegates and their team members and their representatives, and the contribution it is making to the global pollution by way of flying aircrafts left and right across the globe. So there's a lot discussed. I've been following this since COP 25, then 26 happened, 27 happened. Now we are talking of COP 30, 33, 34. I think there's a lot of noise with a little bit of action, and I'm sorry to say that, Vineet, because each year the world is getting warmer. Each year natural calamities resulting out of climate change are increasing. I mean in terms of number, whether it is floods, whether it is droughts, whether it is cyclones, whether it is anything related to nature, and it is aggravating for one simple reason, that we are not conscious of our environment. And I think so. What is COP actually achieving? Apart from a discussion in a hotel or discussion in a fancy destination, nothing much is being achieved. Well, India is still doing a lot. India is totally committed towards bringing down the pollution. And every time economic development happens in a country, if you look at the history of China, look at the history of America and Europe for that matter, they were one of the biggest pollutants. The only difference was that at that time the world wasn't conscious. At that time there was no COP, basically. Nobody was noticing it. When slowly and steadily we have led ourselves to a situation where the humanity or survival of humanity has come at a question. I think we have woken up, not just India, Vineet, to pick up words from what you said. Not just India, but the world has been woken up too late. And I think it is just too late now, because a lot of things which are happening across the world are irreversible. And look at where the conference is happening. The conference is happening at an oil producing hub. We are talking of fossil fuels, and the conference is happening right in the middle of oil producing hubs. So I think the world needs to look at a mirror and look at itself. Each country needs to look at itself. The economic cost is humongous. But here, even ahead of economic cost, is the cost to humanity. Look at the number of people who die because of environment. I need not dissect that data, that how many people die in these natural calamities purely coming out of climate change. So I think a lot of noise, but a little bit of action. That is my personal grudge. I'm sorry if that offends somebody. I'll apologize for that. But unfortunately, that is the bitter truth which is in front of us. Vineet, I hope my other panelists would agree to that.
Pathikrit, how do you feel about what Dr. Kohli has just enunciated, that a lot is promised, a lot is talked about, but the talk isn't walked?
Well, I think Dr. Kohli gave the best example in terms of the number of civilian aircrafts coming in to actually have this meeting. Let me tell you one thing. What Prime Minister Modi mentioned about bringing in a balance between ecology and economy, I think no country has done better than India. There are reasons. First of all, I think I strongly support the decision of Government of India not to shun coal, because for centuries the West used coal for their own development. Now when it comes to developing a country of 140 crore people, taking care of their aspirations, you just cannot ask India to shun coal at a time when your energy politics with sanctions regimes continue in the global market. Number two, you cannot expect people to think about environment if they go to sleep without having meals thrice a day. So you need to take care of people and their aspirations. And India has done phenomenally well in terms of making sure that India emerges a more resilient economy after the COVID crisis as the 5th largest economy of the world. As I stated, even before in your programs, culturally we are always inclined and attuned to protect and conserving the nature. That is what our culture and ethos have always taught us. So we don't need sermons from the West for that. Let me give you also a few examples what Government of India has done. In terms of solar targets, we have a target of 500 megawatt, 500 gigawatt by 2030. We have already achieved 175 gigawatt. In terms of the Ujjwala Yojana, where you have given free LPG connections to 80 million households. Imagine the amount of carbon footprint you have reduced. They used to use wood for cooking purpose. In terms of the Ujjwala Yojana, I'll give you some very hard facts which are often ignored by the West. Under the Ujjwala Yojana, India government under Prime Minister Modi distributed 36.78 crore LED bulbs, 72 lakh LED tube lights, and 23 lakh energy efficient fans in 7 years till 2022. It resulted in saving of 47,778 million kilowatt hour of energy per annum and reducing the carbon emissions by 3.86 crore tons. That is what India has done. In terms of the number of metro network that India is building up across cities, you reduce the moment you improve your public transport, people tend to reduce cars much less. Now, this whole pressure from the West that you must move towards electric vehicle at one go. You have an automobile industry today in India working on internal combustion engine, $220 billion plus per annum. Suddenly you shift to electric vehicle. The disruption that it would cost is phenomenal. So you need to do it in a calibrated manner. And that is exactly what India has done in terms of having targets by 2030. In terms of penetration of electric vehicle in the commercial sector, private sector, domestic, personal vehicles. And I think that's the best thing that India could have done. Prime Minister has always stressed about one thing, lifestyle for environment. You have a West where the, incidence of wastage in terms of food, in terms of everything is so profound that culturally, if you change your lifestyle, you can do phenomenally well to improve the entire ecology and the environment. You do not need to be a Greta Thunberg, shout at the pitch of your voice and then lecture about environment. Today in India, you would see at the grassroots level,
let me also rope in Mr.
working.
Sanjeev Srivastav into this conversation. Mr. Srivastav, your response to what Dr. Kohli and Patrikrita have said. Obviously, India has taken this initiative. There are a number of minerals for which India is also going to be putting a lot of impetus. There's a lot of incentive being given to states for some of those minerals. But right now, those minerals are being imported from China, and they will continue to be imported for another 10 years from China. How does this entire permutation combination sit with India's goals?
Well, Vineet, I think India is providing a leadership in terms in the domain of fight against climate change to the international community. And our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, has taken various initiatives through which he has very clearly demonstrated that leadership, the visionary leadership to the world. Vineet, we have been, dealing with this entire issue with this idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, as well as Prakriti Rakshita Rakshita. Environment will protect those who will protect environment. That is also our, vision, and through which Prime Minister Modi has been working very hard. And for that to do, he has launched several visionary initiatives like One Sun, One Grid, One Future, and a similar kind of international solar alliance like initiative is being launched by India, and several of the most of the countries of the international community have joined this initiative. This Green Credit Program is another initiative which has been launched by our Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change under the broader framework of the Lifestyle for Environment initiative. So I think India is providing leadership to the world, Dr. Kohli was saying that it's quite late, but I would say that it's better late than never. And I think though we have woken up late, international community I'm talking about, but if we continuously take sincere steps towards protecting our environment with the visionary leadership like Prime Minister Modi is providing, we will be certainly able to make a very significant impact in terms of keeping the global temperature below 1.5 degrees centigrade. That was what was aimed at in the Paris climate deal. And I think India is very much committed. If you look at our various programs and initiatives with regard to renewable energy, etc., we have achieved several of those goals 11 years before the set time limit. And also the kind of address has been delivered by our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi yesterday. If you look at his various programs and vision, obviously he's talking about reducing this the carbon emission and achieving this net zero emission by the year 2070. That is what we are very much steadfast and in determined manner. We are moving ahead towards that direction. We are reducing carbon emission. We will also work towards reducing the methane emission, as well as we will be working more on adopting renewable energy resources. And India is a leader, obviously, in terms of using this renewable energy sources. So I think India is providing leadership, but at the same time, I agree with the Pathikrit. I think is very right that realities cannot be ignored. And I think we are a developing economy, and obviously, the various kind of countries, whether we are or the various countries of the global south, for which we speak for, and we raise our voice for the global south too. Their various harsh realities, the ground realities, must not be ignored.
All right.
So I think
okay. Would like to thank all my guests for being a part of this. Dr. Kohli, Pathikrit, appreciate you being here.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.